Welcome back to the Jedi Guybrarian Holocron. Hello, what have we here? And here. Yes, today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the character Lando Calrissian when he appears in The Rise of Skywalker, and look at some extra more detailed scenes about him in this awesome novel by Ray Carson. In Chapter 5, on page 74, Lando has just taken off his helmet to reveal his identity to Rey and our other main protagonists. "So you stayed here?" Rey asked. "Here and there. The desert helps you forget," Lando said, and sadness tinged his voice. "First Order went after us, the leaders from the old wars. They took our kids." His gaze grew distant. "My girl wasn't even old enough to walk. Far as I know, she's a stormtrooper now." Finn's face turned grim. Rey resisted the urge to put a hand on his shoulder. Sometimes sympathy was hard to bear. "They turned our kids into our enemies," Lando said in a defeated voice. "My girl, Han and Leia's son Ben, to kill the spirit of the rebellion for good." Rey and Finn locked eyes, and she knew he was thinking along the same lines that she was. Ripping children away from their homes and pressing them into service wasn't only about filling ranks, it was about crushing the opposition's spirit. So now we know that somewhere between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, what was left of the Empire and the beginnings of the First Order went after the heroes of the rebellion and their families. Perhaps evil Emperor Palpatine, obsessed with revenge on those who defeated his empire, gave specific orders that he knew would severely damage his enemies, not just physically, but emotionally, taking away their children and turning them into stormtroopers or even into Sith. Not only harming his old enemies, but also using the next generation to bring his empire back through the First Order. To learn more about this, we can also turn once again to the really awesome Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary created by Pablo Hidalgo. He has an awesome section in the book about Lando, including the following information. Though he came late to the fight against the Empire, Lando Calrissian struck a major blow by leading the attack on the second Death Star. When peace reigned, Lando attempted to start a family, but tragedy struck and his infant daughter vanished. It was only later that it became clear who the culprits behind the abduction were: the First Order, building their fighting forces, but also specifically striking at the old Alliance leadership. 6 years after the tragedy that befell his family, Calrissian served as a partner and guide to Luke Skywalker as the Jedi Master searched for clues to a growing darkness he detected in the Force. Whispers spoke of a resurgent enemy from the past, and Skywalker was determined to find some answers. Had some remnant of the Sith survived? Calrissian's underworld contacts passed along rumors of a hunter of Sith relics on Pasaana, and while Luke and Lando investigated the world's deserts, they did not find their quarry. Lando, however, did find some peace and a sense of community, and decided to stay. Once again shielded from an escalating conflict, he felt he had earned his rest after so much sacrifice. This is interesting character development for Lando Calrissian. He's been a gambler and con man and partier in his youth, then a deal maker and a businessman later on, then eventually a war hero for the Rebel Alliance, but now he's leading a more quiet life in his old age after what his family went through. He travels a little with Luke Skywalker to help him try locating the Emperor's Wayfinder and uncover any Sith treachery, and possibly to someday locate his kidnapped daughter. But their quest failed and they lost the trail. At that point, it seems Lando kind of gave up the fight. He stayed on this planet, depressed and tired, seeking some kind of peace, maybe trying to forget all that had happened. But now it is time for his character to develop once again. In the novel, when Rey says the Resistance could use Lando's piloting skills, he responds on page 75, "My flying days are long gone," Lando said, "but give Leia my love. You should give it to her yourself. Thank you." Though Lando was practically a stranger to her, she could read the yearning in his face, plain as a desert day. Maybe she'd gotten through. By the way, plain as a desert day, that's a good simile. Rey's words to Lando about him being needed may have some emotional impact on him, planting a seed of change for his character perhaps. That becomes more clear in Chapter 6 of the novel, on pages 86 to 87, when Lando sees the First Order and the Knights of Ren find the Millennium Falcon. Lando Calrissian crouched on a rock outcropping, making himself as small as possible. Directly below and within spitting distance was the Millennium Falcon, surrounded by stormtroopers. Behind them was a high rock cliff, and Lando could make out several dark figures. His helmet zoomed in on the image until he could identify them. The Knights of Ren. They eyed his ship like vultures. Ooh, another excellent simile. The Knights of Ren eyed his ship like vultures? That's good writing, Ray Carson. His ship. He hadn't been prepared for the sting of nostalgia that overcame him when he laid eyes on the Falcon again. Lando had redonned his mask and crept to this viewing perch, hoping he could grab the Falcon and return it to Chewie before the First Order found it. But he hadn't been fast enough. A desert trooper wearing a colored pauldron strode forward. "Confiscate, scan, and destroy that ship," the stormtrooper commander ordered, "by order of the Supreme Leader. The First Order always destroyed what you loved." He'd been spending a lot of time on Pasaana to get away from all that. The Aki-Aki were joyful and non-violent, and they'd welcomed him without question or reservation. He'd had to don the helmet, sure, because an old rebellion general was nothing if not recognizable, a small price to pay for a little peace and quiet. But maybe scoundrels like him didn't get to have peace. Maybe trouble always came looking, no matter what. He watched, his determination growing, as the desert troopers broke the locks and forced the Falcon to open. Then the best ship in the whole galaxy lifted off and screamed out of the atmosphere, its fusion engines glowing blue, no doubt heading for an incineration hangar. Lando knew what he had to do. Okay, Lando is getting fired up. First Rey's words to him, then also seeing Chewie helping these young Resistance heroes, then seeing these bad guys get their hands on his beloved ship, the Millennium Falcon. I'm thinking maybe that made him think about his daughter a little bit, and that they took her also, and probably made him think about what happened to his old buddy Han Solo too. The main point is this has spurred him back into action. So at the end of this chapter, we get some positive foreshadowing that Lando has decided to get back involved with his old rebel friends and try to make a difference in the galaxy again. It's foreshadowing his later involvement, and it's also great character development as Lando moves from an isolated stationary position to one of direct involvement in the conflict again. Well, I guess that's all for today. May the Force and reading and Lando's cool be with you. Everything you've heard about me is true. One more thing, I don't like to get too political on a show like this, but sometimes I think it's important for a Jedi to let you know who he's supporting.